I've picked out 15 PlayStation 1 titles that changed me as a person. I'm not going to babble on anymore, but I will say that this is in no particular order. Let's take a look at the first one, and please, I hope you enjoy this. Some might say that it was Lara Croft that was the first female video game protagonist to get her tits out. Well, I beg to differ. Ridge Racer doesn't just provide a classy loading screen, it provides the arcade experience right at home, and for me, this showed an absolutely monumental shift in the 90s, and it was unfortunately contributory to the decline of the arcade having games like this right on your couch co-op abilities. This game was the first racing game that I ever played, and we had a copy that was lent to us by one of our friends, David. Again, we tended to borrow a lot of games or just sit and watch our friends play them because we couldn't afford to buy them. I do also believe that there was Ridge Racer floating about on a demo as well, but that's another story. This game looked fantastic. This was next level back in the 90s. When you saw this for the first time as a young teen, your jaw hit the floor, and it was a hot talking point in many magazines and many school classrooms. Now, Ridge Racer didn't just look pretty in the 90s, but it sounded absolutely amazing too. And back with the rave scene being synonymous, of course, with the 90s, I think that this resonated with people more than just playing a video game. You can actually sit and have a bit of a rave to it as well. Well, raving isn't exactly my thing, but Ridge Racer is. I thoroughly enjoyed and appreciate this game so much in 2023, and I can't imagine what the PlayStation would have been. What better game to show its capabilities than Ridge Racer? And of course we had Ridge Racer Revolution to follow up, which is another banger. If Ridge Racer wasn't enough to make your loins quiver, then perhaps one of the godfathers, the mothers, the no, I'm going way off topic here. Doom is an absolutely fantastic first-person shooter that, let's face it, carved the path for many other first-person shooter games. For me, nothing has ever come close to Doom in terms of its FPS capabilities, but what this did back then for people's minds, hearts, souls, and just about every fibre of my body, I can't even put it into words. Now, I've picked this specifically for the PS1 because of course it's available on many other platforms, including pregnancy tests, yay! But I couldn't afford a PC, let alone barely even a PS1 back in the day. But I did play this on the PC in Gordon Harwood's. I've told the story many times, so I'm not going to labour your ears into listening to it anymore. But the PlayStation 1 version felt the most like the PC for me. It felt amazing. I felt rich having the opportunity to play this on the PlayStation 1 back then, and it still feels really nice. Okay, I'm just reacquainting my muscle memory to get back into the controls in the gameplay here, but it's Doom. I mean, I just can't imagine my life without it. But let me know what your memories are of playing Doom, and perhaps you can tailor your answer to specifically talking more about the PlayStation 1 version, of course, as we're talking about this beautiful 32-bit machine. Of course, Doom came out on other consoles, and I did play it on the Super Nintendo, of course, before I played it on the PlayStation 1. But let's face it, aside from the PC version, the PlayStation 1 port of Doom is absolutely tremendous, and for me, it was as close to the PC port as I could get. Metal Gear Solid. Probably the only game on this list that I shouldn't really voice over. I think the gameplay and the sound and the voice acting and the atmosphere and even the introduction of the credits over this early gameplay really speak for itself. This was way ahead of its time back from the PlayStation 1 days, and I think it's some of Kojima's finest work. Okay, we can sit here all day and talk about the breakup of Kojima and Konami, but that is, to me, it's done. That ship sailed. I think we need to remember these pieces of art that are left over from that relationship rather than slating what could have been. I was 15 years old when I played this, and I remember buying a copy, a fake copy, a copied game, for £6. But little did I know that it was 2 discs, so when I got to the very end of the first disc, I was absolutely beside myself. I simply had to have the second disc. So I ran down to my guy and I paid my £6 and I purchased the second disc, but then of course you needed the code. And I didn't have the actual case to get Meryl's code from the back. You see where I'm going with this. But that for me all adds to the memories and nostalgia. And I remember sat in my bedroom when I lived with my grandmother, and I just was hooked. I never looked back, and again this game really changed me and opened my eyes and gave me a thirst for games beyond platforming, games where you had to use your brain, games where you needed patience, not just a quick finger on a jump button. Cheryl, where the are you? Imagine if we'd have found her in these early stages of Silent Hill. Obviously then we wouldn't have a game, and my imagination is literally just getting the better of me here because I'm glad we didn't find Cheryl. This game is a masterpiece. This game again really did help to carve the way for horror as we know it, and we often talk about Resident Evil as a franchise and Silent Hill as a franchise being the 2 most dominant horror games ever. And I would still say that that is the case because nothing for me has ever come close to the atmosphere of a Silent Hill game. Of course, Resident Evil and Silent Hill are 2 very different games in their own rights. This, for me, Silent Hill adds so much tension, and it's more about what you don't see compared to what you do see, and the questions that you're left having in your mind as you're playing, including, where is Cheryl? Is that where the is Cheryl? But anyway, I digress. Silent Hill is a masterpiece, and I have very fond memories of playing the demo and the full game of this back when me and my brother used to actually get along as kids. There are many assets to Tomb Raider that really fill the voluptuous experience. Okay, shut up, Gemma. Tomb Raider, Lara Croft. We're in 1996 and we are of course on the PlayStation, but yes, Tomb Raider did actually release on the Sega Saturn beforehand. Me personally, I absolutely hammered the heck out of playing this game on the PlayStation 1. I actually played through it with my friend Matt, and I do remember very fondly getting stuck on level 5. I used to think it was level 4 until I recently did a playthrough on my Twitch, but it's actually level 5. We were stuck on it for weeks, and this is pre-internet, remember, this is pre-game guide even for us. We didn't have access to that kind of material and media back in the day. So for me, going through Tomb Raider was very much a learning kind of trial and error experience, and I miss that because now we have so much information at our disposal that we can just have a look at a walkthrough online. We can just pull the guide out of the massive retro game collection or whatever it is. There's always an answer there. But this was probably the first game for me that I played where there wasn't an answer. You have to use your brain. That's what it was like. I think Tomb Raider as a franchise, and especially the first game, holds a dear, dear, dear place in my every fibre for many, many reasons, and one I've just explained. I'm excited to see what comes from the Tomb Raider franchise, and I'm also excited to be going to the TR27 event in Derby in August. Hoping to be a guest speaker there if all goes to plan. So I will link that event in the description if you want to get some tickets and come along and celebrate Tomb Raider. In fact, all things Tomb Raider. And Lara Croft, of course, but no assets.
Cool borders!
Not only is this game absolutely amazing, who remembers this sound effect?
Web systems.
Massive nostalgia playing this at a cousin's crib. Well, I say playing at a cousin's, more like me watching him play because he was a bit of a selfish and wouldn't let me play. But nonetheless, my resentment to one side, this is a great game. This was the first game I ever played that was a snowboarding game, and being kind of very young, I used to really enjoy extreme sports back in the day, so for me this was a way to tap in to that side of me. Again, never really had much money growing up, so we didn't have access to the likes of MTV where you could watch ESPN Extreme Games. But if I did get a chance to go to my grandparents, they did have it, and I used to love watching skateboarding, snowboarding, you name it, anything to do with extreme sports, and I just absolutely vibed it. So when I got the opportunity to see Cool Borders in action, Cool Borders 2, it felt like me winning the lottery basically. And it is a great game. It's a little bit clunky. My muscle memory was pretty bad. This was my first run. My second run is actually much better because I realised I can press square and actually take a sharp turn rather than crash into the side. But it's really nice, and it's not aged too badly either for a PlayStation game. It doesn't look too bad, and there's lots of different courses and lots of different varieties of things, including just general tricking out in the half pipe. You can change your character, change the clothes. There was quite a lot of customizations to do back then. So this is Cool Borders 2. I hope your nostalgia loins are tingling as much as mine.
Tailbit to tail drag! Good!
Gran Turismo, oh my god, talk about upping the ante in terms of graphics. For me, seeing this on a CRT back in the day, I mean, it was literally, this was our version of looking at 4K back in the day. When you first saw 4K now, by today's standards, imagine that first time you saw 4K. That's what looking at this was like. And my brother had a copy, so I would often just sit and watch him do all the tweaks on the cars, buying new cars, selling cars, racing, talking about it. again, very fond memories, and definitely couldn't imagine my top 15 PlayStation 1 games without including this. And I know a lot of you guys really like it because I've played the heck out of this on the PlayStation 1 on my live stream on Twitch, and it's by far one of the biggest audiences that I've had. So shout out to everybody who actually came into that stream, and if you want me to do it again, want me to play some Gran Turismo again, give me a shout in the comment section of this video. But for now, you can see how badly I don't win this race. Loaded is an absolutely mint game. It is a top-down, I guess, kind of like this weird action. I don't know how to even explain what this game is, but basically you can pick between half a dozen characters, all looking incredibly eclectic and very different in their appearance, different weapons, etc, etc. You start off in this first level and you literally need to find the exit by collecting key cards. If you look in the top the top left hand corner, you'll see already that I have the green, the blue and the yellow key card. So obviously once you get them, you can go into different rooms and essentially progress. There's lots of health to collect, there's lots of different things to kind of collect along the way, none of which other than the health seem to do a great deal, but it's really, really fun. And even when there's lots of pixels on the screen, you don't really see much slowdown in the gameplay. So for me, it was always quite a consistent experience. And out of all my testing for this episode, I found myself becoming so mesmerized at playing this. This is one I'm definitely going to stream. And if you haven't played this, you need to stop this video, you need to pause the video, and you need to go and order yourselves a copy at your local retro game shops. You can get it on the Sega Saturn as well, but we're not talking about the Sega Saturn, we're here to talk about the PlayStation 1. So, if you do anything from this video, aside from subscribe of course, because I will love you forever, get yourselves a copy of Loaded and tell me what you think.
Resident Evil.
Oh, what a mansion!
What a mansion indeed. I am actually shaking as I'm recording this because there's so many amazing video games in this episode that were literal game changers. Again, we've talked about Silent Hill and the importance of that, but Resident Evil took a very different shift, of course, with the outbreak of the T-virus and us beginning our zombie entrenched adventure in this mansion. Now, I think it was a really nice touch from Capcom to be able to pick between two players back in the day, both with very different attributes, from the kind of outgoing, of course, Jill getting the lockpick, which means you can access different areas of the mansion, compared to Chris, for example. And what you're about to see is one of the most important video game scenes ever. Now, back when I was a childhood, the zombie that you're about to see, I was told, and I don't know if this is true, but the eye of the zombie was actually scanned from a real dead body. That could have been a rumour from my peer group, and I cannot find anything online to find out if it is true, but that eye was scary. That scene right there was something your nightmares are made of. So Resident Evil, what more can I say? We have the mechanical door opening there that would, in other games, would simply say loading, but not on Resident Evil. You had the animation of the door open, which again was revolutionary back in the day. And I remember my friend telling me about it and how clever of a step that was for a video game. So thank you to Capcom, thank you to Resident Evil, and just thank you to Matt and Martin for my 90s memories of this phenomenal experience.
I don't like to lose. Hold tight. This is gonna get bumpy.
Die Hard Trilogy, 3 games in one, 3 massively different experiences in one. You can either grab your light gun, or you can dive straight into a taxi, or you can just do what I do and always dive into the basement or garage or garage of the Nakatomi building and brace yourself for, I think it's 15 levels of pure hell and so much fun that you will want to keep playing this game over and over again, or at least I did. Now, I beat the game using save states again on stream. I've streamed a hell of a lot of these and completed most of these games on live stream. And this is one, for me, it's a little bit like how I feel about the movie Aliens. Aliens is something I will always go back to and watch over and over again. Die Hard Trilogy, this campaign is something that I will play over and over again, and I will never get bored. I always find it intriguing, I always enjoy looking for enemies, and I love the frantic nature of trying to find the exit when you've killed all the baddies and you have to go up a floor to the next level. It's frantic, it's fun, I'm so passionate about it. And I had to include it. Me and my brother had this on a demo. I think you could play the first 2 levels if I remember correctly. Again, it was one of those that we would just pick up and play over and over again. But even this, level 2, it gets very tricky around here. It gets very, very difficult. Of course, if you've never played it, this particular campaign, you have to kill all the baddies and rescue the hostages. There are little power-ups you can collect, such as grenades. And then, of course, you have to utilise your minimap at all times because the red dots are enemies, the blue dots are the hostages, and then the map will flash when the exit becomes available. So brace yourselves. Yippee-ki-yay, mother...
Told you we'd make it. Yippee-ki-yay!
Nakatomi Plaza campaign out of the Die Hard trilogy for me is an absolute masterpiece. I did actually beat that game on stream, but I hold my hands up, I'm very guilty of using save states because it's very, very difficult. But I've still completed it, so it's absolutely fine. It's a great game, a phenomenal experience. One Christmas, my brother did get a PlayStation 1 and he got 3 games: Porsche Challenge, Adidas International Superstar Soccer and Crash Bandicoot. This was one of the first games I ever touched on a PlayStation, and can you imagine how good this felt, jumping from a Super Nintendo, so the 16-bit era, up to something like this? Me personally, I don't think we'll ever see a graphical jump or an experiential jump as we did from 16 to 32-bit. And when I think about that jump, I think about Crash Bandicoot. I think about the gameplay, I think about the sound, I think about the colours, I think about absolutely everything and how monumental that was and how important it was. This game is solid the further into the levels that you actually get. I don't know how we managed to beat these back in the day, again with no internet and no guides, just pure brain power and persistence. This is flipping awesome, albeit frustrating, but it's one that I'll always keep going back to. Another first-person shooter now, not quite as on par with something like Doom or Quake or Hexen even, but still synonymous with my passions because, again, I've mentioned Aliens as an entire movie series. I'm also a massive fan of the games. Now, fun fact, my brother purchased this back in the day from Woolworths and he paid $34.99. I think he paid with it with some birthday money. And it used to be one of the games back in the day that really made me feel sick. So God love that boy, he took it back to Woolworths to trade it in for a different game because he knew that I couldn't play it. And I'll never forget that. And it's just a nice warm memory that really does solidify my love for this game. And thankfully now, at 39 years of young, I can play this with no problems. Again, it's quite a tricky game. And it was followed up with Alien Resurrection on the PlayStation 1. It doesn't actually come anywhere near as good as what Alien Trilogy is, but it's okay. Now, this game itself can be quite tricky. You can blow up these crates. If I can actually hit it, there we go. And of course, we've got face huggers hiding in them, but you can also snag yourself some kind of health or sometimes some ammo. So you really do need to make sure you kind of check in everything. The game is quite dark in terms of its colour palette, so you really do have to take your time. The maps can be a little bit maze-like, and xenomorphs can often kind of appear in numbers and droves, which doesn't represent the film as much, so you do have to take this one with a bit of a pinch of salt, but it is quite fun and I do like some of the animations. I think it's quite a cool game. So Alien Trilogy is on my list. It's been a very important game for me.
Let's go!
I've already mentioned it, Porsche Challenge. It was one of those 3 games that my brother got for Christmas, and this was one that we absolutely hammered. Now, you have to remember that Porsche Challenge came out before Gran Turismo. So looking at this, again, this was one of those 4K moments. The graphics look really nice and we're not over encumbered by blocky polygons. Everything does look nice and smooth and polished on this. Now, you can have different characters all with different colour cars with slightly different personalities, but on the whole, the cars and the physics feel exactly the same no matter which cars you're driving. It is quite fast, it is very, very fun, and I will say one of the downsides is you do have to come first in order to get through to the next track, but nonetheless it makes that replay factor that all kind of, I guess, more fun because you need to keep going and making sure that you are coming first and honing in on your skills. The tracks do start to vary, there's a mirror mode and different parts of the track do open up the further into this you get. So it's really cool, and I know that when I send this to my brother, this episode, he will make a comment about Porsche Challenge. So shout out to you, Scott. We had so much fun on this, and I'm going to hand it over to my viewers now to tell me some of their memories. Another banger of a racing title here that arguably isn't on par with the graphics compared to the likes of Porsche Challenge or Gran Turismo, but this is hella fun. I used to just use the bollards just to swing around the corners and gain a little bit of momentum, and I will say that this is the only game in this episode that I didn't record myself, and that's because I've scratched the disc on my copy, so I am using World of Long Plays footage here, so I will link them in the description. But we used to play this on the demo, and it just used to be the bowl where you had to smash every other car up and be the kind of, I guess it was a bit like Battle Royale really. My brother's incredible at it. Last time he came round to my house, we played it on the Mini and he just won every time on the bowl. Me personally, I'd probably get to about 15th and then I die. So massive shout out to my friends Paul and Matt, and of course my lovely brother Scott for the amazing memories on Destruction Derby. I'll never forget the glory days of playing Destruction Derby on the demo disc. Demo discs, again, as a side note, really helped to shape my PlayStation 1 days, and that's because I couldn't afford games outright, so I relied very much on the demos to sample the games that I might potentially get a chance to play at a neighbour's or a friend's house, or maybe on the odd occasion buy one for Christmas. Casper. Firstly, apologies for the shimmery pixels on the right hand side of my recording here. Anyway, that aside, this is a bit of a weird one because this is actually not a great game, but it's a great game for me. Again, a game like no other. It is a puzzle game and you play the role of Casper and you have to navigate through Whipstaff Manor in order to try and get that weird ass machine that they have in the movie that will bring him back to life. Anyway, you have to collect parts, but you also have to level up Casper. You can collect puzzle pieces to form a picture, and every picture that you make gives you a different ability. You can whiz through the grates, you can become a bouncing ball and go through some of the smaller windows later in the game. You collect different colour keys for different doors. This game's a bit of a minefield, but I think it was revolutionary and I was hooked back in the day. It's another one that I'm like 3 minutes or so before completing on a stream. And I say that, and I think because I bricked my save. I missed a key, and it's a bit of a weird one, but anyway, I have completed this, but we're about 99.9% complete on stream, so I'm not going back to it because it drove me crazy. Why did it drive me crazy? Whipstaff Manor is a huge maze, and there's no inbuilt map in the game. And of course, pre-internet, pre-game guide, you had to memorise the manor or you had to write everything down. Now, if you look online, people have actually generated maps of Whipstaff Manor. So you can see, say, for example, where the purple door is and the purple key to the door is. I would strongly advise you get a copy of a map online for this game if you want to have an enjoyable experience. But I'm only including it because it's very dear to me. So let me know what you think. We're going to head back to the Lady Loft now, and you're going to see my face and we're going to conclude.
I can't do that. I can't do that.
So they are the 15 PlayStation 1 games that I very carefully narrowed down. Of course, I could have sat in front of my PlayStation collection for absolutely hours and really gone through this with a fine-tooth comb, but those games were the ones that jumped out at me immediately. In fact, this list was very easy to make because I knew into it what it was going to comprise of. Of course, there are many other classics. I've deliberately missed out Final Fantasy games, like I said before, because they're just... I didn't play them as much, and they definitely didn't help to shape me. I only knew a Final Fantasy VII, for example, through my friend Gareth, and Gareth absolutely loved it, but I didn't feel it, I didn't play it, I didn't yearn to play it as a kid. That's why I've just picked the ones that I'm most familiar with. So thank you so much for watching. I would very much appreciate it if you guys could hit that subscribe button and maybe even give this video a share, but for now, I'll catch you in the next one. Cheers. I need a few seconds of your time to tell you about channel memberships. If you guys want to become a channel member, click join from the main page or the second link in the description. There are 3 tiers, all with different perks for you if you want to become a team member. Thanks for your time. Let's continue with the video.